sir. Paul Stivaletta, of course, was the welterweight champion of New England in 1957. Who was the greatest fighter to come out of New England?
Well, nobody's ever going to take the way. That's a tough decision to make, but not with me, because we had some great champions from New England. You know, we had John L. Sullivan, one of the greatest heavyweights, first heavyweights of all time. He was from Dorchester, Mass. And of course, you know, we have Tony DeMarco, a great champion, a welterweight champion. And we have Paul Pender, another great middleweight champion from Boston. And then the greatest of all was Rocky Marciano. They're still trying to break his record, and it's great that he's still holding on to it. And it's sad that he's not here, but he is here. And wherever you see a boxing ring, I think always Rocky Marciano's name will come up. I had the great privilege of meeting Rocky, being with Rocky, and he was going to one time take me over as a manager and take me to Las Vegas to fight out of Las Vegas, but being tied up with another manager at that time, I never got that opportunity to be there. But I did have an opportunity of being with Rocky many times, not only as a man in boxing and an ex-champion of the world, but we became very friendly and close, and I welcomed that so much because of boxing that I had the opportunity of meeting a guy like Rocky Marciano and Sonny Listons and Joe Wolcott and many more great fighters.
You met Jersey Joe Wolcott?
Yep, I met Joe Wolcott at Poland Springs when I was part of the Listing and Cassius Clay boxing camp. I was with Liston actually, and while I was there, of course, Wolcott was the referee of that fight, and Wolcott was there 2 weeks before the fight at Poland Springs, and after the training camps and was over with, the boxing and workouts that day, we would meet at dinner, and we'd have dinner together with Wolcott and Jimmy Braddock, who's not around anymore, but he was alive then, and a lot of other great fighters like Willie Pep and many more. And not only fighters, but great actors, and the Robert Goulet, you remember him, he missed a note on the national anthem that night, but the fight night, and there was Norman Mailer, one of the greatest authors of all time. I had the privilege of not only being with great fighters, but great actors and writers, which fighting always seems to draw a crowd of all different facets of life, and that's one thing great about boxing. It fits in the realm of so many different people, you know.
Sure are. You're watching professional boxing here on ABT, celebrity boxing from the Lowell Sheridan Inn. Paulie, you spoke of Rocky Marciano's record. For the record, would you tell our fans what the record is? What is it, 49-0?
Yeah, 49 professional fights, 49 wins. I think he's got, out of 49 fights, there is 40, I think 46 or 47 knockouts. I don't think 3 men went the whole route with Rocky Marciano. And Ezra Charles was one of them, and Lowney was another, a fighter, a heavyweight from, which was a 10-rounder. But there was only 3 fights that went the route with Rocky. The rest of them were all knockouts.
That's fascinating. You hold a record, Paulie. The quickest, what is it, 10 knockouts in 9.5 minutes?
There was 10 knockouts in 9.5 minutes, yes.
That's a world record, folks. ABT brings you it all. Atlantic Boxing Television from the Lowell Sheridan Inn. We'll be back with action right after this.
Well, TKO. As Edson put Johnson to sleep, Paul, that was dangerous. When you see a fighter like that, it was almost limp. That's scary when he goes face first and his arms are in an unusual position like that, because he was out.
I think after that second knockdown, the fight should have been stopped. He was, you know, he had no legs. He had no strength to hold his faculties together and his arm movement. So that went a little just beyond the limit, I think. And
they kind of, in an offhanded manner, encourage that in the pros. Let them go one extra knockdown because it is the pros, and the pro fight is more of a spectator sport than the amateur one.
Well, you know, you get the crowd. They hate to see you stop a fight, especially when somebody's hurt. It's because that's what they're all here for, to see that big bang, that knockout. You know, 10-round fights are great. There are great 10-round fights, 15-round fights with decisions. People are all here for that one big punch, that one big knockout. And they're waiting for it, and as soon as they see it, they jump out of their seats and yelling and screaming. And sometimes persuades referees to not be able to call the shot right. By the same thing that happened up in Lewiston, Maine with Cassius Clay and Sonny Liston. It was a knockdown in the first round. Sonny Liston, Cassius Clay was standing over him. The crowd was roaring, and Wolcott didn't know what to do. The timekeepers were yelling, and everybody. Wolcott turned to his left to see if the timekeeper started the count. He couldn't see anything because everybody was standing over the timekeeper and screaming and hollering.
And Goulet was passed out over one of them.
And Goulet was still trying to remember the song, you know.
You've been at a lot of great boxing moments. You mentioned the Liston fight. You met Jersey Joe Wolcott. You met the great champion Rocky Marciano. I mentioned this during the amateurs. There seems to be some sort of brotherhood between the boxers. Everybody, folks, who walks through this door, anybody knows Paul Stivaletta, and they all get their 2 cents. And you said, like, you beat Johnny Gagliardi. Here it is, you guys fought, but you're best of friends.
Oh, definitely. One thing about fighters, I mean, I've played hockey, I've played football, I've met hockey players and football players. One thing about boxing, I think it's different from all sports. You know, you're in there looking at each other to win and do everything you can to one another under the rules of boxing to win. But when that fight is over, you have more respect for each other because you know that a man that gets up in that corner across from you is the same as you are and has the same anxieties and fears what comes with boxing. And when it's over, you have such a high respect for one another that you both know what it takes to get into the ring and how hard you work for it and what it all means. So that commodity goes with you throughout life. You become the best of friends and can't wait for an opportunity to do something for each other. And that's one thing I always loved about boxing, that what happened to me in the beginning is still with me today, that the old-time fighters and as well as myself and their children that are fighting today, it still brings us back together. And while boxing continues to go on, we'll always be seeing each other one time or other.
It's a game. You guys had mentioned earlier about the transition from amateur to professional. When you turn pro, what is the telltale sign that says you're ready to turn pro? Is it when you kick butt in your own division? Is it when you need the money? What is it, a combination of the two?
Well, when it's time to turn pro in the amateurs, when you've been in the amateurs for a while, you begin to be, and doing well, your name becomes circulated throughout the amateur facets of amateur boxings and all the towns and all over. And
when you become a drawing card is what you're leading
to. And your name becomes big in the amateurs, and you can't get fights in the amateurs. So the next step is now, and which your trainers know that it's time to turn pro and see how far your ability from the amateurs can bring you in the professional ranks. Not only as a great fighter, as an amateur, to be a great professional fighter, you have to have the right management and the training to do that. When to fight, who to fight, and when you're ready for the fighting, what opponent. And that, of course, I can go on that with another 2 hours of
talent, timing, and a lot of luck.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a big difference at the pros from the amateurs, because here it's for not only a pay night, it's for their whole careers, whether they end the year or continue in the pros. You know, if you get knocked out a couple of times in the pros, you're usually told to hang them up. So you can't afford in the amateurs, you can win, you can lose, and you still have that right to come back. In the pros, once you start losing a couple of fights, they tell you, hang it up, nobody wants you anymore.
Under that name, right?
That's right.
So there are a lot of guys that fight under different names, which is like they use the nickname Kid or Red or what have you.
That's right, and so sometimes a Kid or Red might fight under the next name of Blue in a week from now. I don't know. They call those kind of fighters another name.
Let's talk about, you were talking about corners, having a good support staff. Say you're fighting tonight, Paulie. Who's in your corner? Tell me who's in the corner, what their responsibility is.
Well, in your corner is the men who work with you through most of your whole life, if not in your amateur life, but in your pro life. The trainers, one master trainer will be what we call the boss, and then a second man in the ring. But you listen to your number one trainer throughout your whole life, not only your boxing career, but in your daily life. He's a good trainer, watches his fighter, how he lives, what he eats for food, what his personality is like, as well as his ability in boxing and fighting.
Great.